This might be the most corroded battery terminal I have ever seen in my entire life. What is that? All right, so today I'd like to invite you along to join me as we diagnose some issues with this 2014 Jeep Patriot. Let's go. So this car belongs to a good buddy of mine's mother, and the initial complaint that she had was that the vehicle was overheating. And when we got there last night, I could not get the fans to turn on at all. I switched some relays around and I was able to get the fans to come on, and we drove the vehicle back to my place where it currently sits. Issues I noticed driving it: it had a pretty crazy surge in the transmission. It was like when you were trying to cruise at a certain RPM or so, a certain pedal amount, like a quarter of a pedal or more, it was bucking really hard. It would just be boom, boom, every so often, just, it would just bang. So that was weird. The cooling fan issue was weird. And I'll tell you another thing here. We're going to fire it up. It hasn't been started since last night. Boy, this thing had a knock on it. I've read somewhere that these have solid lifters and that they're a little bit more known to make some noise, but boy, this thing makes some noise. Oh, wow. Now that's weird. It is not knocking anywhere near as much as it was last night. Very strange. It was very loud last night to knock, very distinctive. So let's pull this down around back and take a look at it. All right, with the hood open here, we'll take the cover off the top. I don't know if you can hear that. You can hear the direct injection going, which is loud. But there's a little bit of a tap there. Like I said, again, nowhere near as bad as it was last night, but it was cold last night, and today it's a little warmer, and they said that sometimes those lifters are louder whenever it's colder. It's got just under 100K on it. We're at like 94,000 miles, so there's definitely signs here that the radiator did pop, so she did overheat. You can see all this white on everything. I'm gonna go shut the motor off because I don't really need it to be all that warm right now. It's got 96,000 miles on it, so you know what? Never like to leave keys in a car unless I have the window down, and I didn't roll the window down, so we're gonna grab those keys. So definitely has signs of the radiator cap popping, and if you look around the cap here, it's all funky. I don't know if you can see that there. So we're definitely gonna start with a new radiator cap. Oh, so last night, I got the fans to kick on. So initially I started the car and I turned the air conditioning on. So we'll do that real quick. Oops, dropping you guys. All right. When you turn the air conditioning on, you're gonna force the fans to kick on. Always. Anytime the AC's on, the fans are gonna kick on. So take a look here. Boy, now you can hear that. You hear that tick? I definitely hear it. The fans are not on yet. See, again, so they're not on, which they 100% should be. As soon as I turn that AC on, those fans should kick on, and they are not on. So there's our issue. That's why we're overheating. So I looked down in here, and there's like a relay box way down in there. That's where the relays are for the fans. And what I did yesterday was switch the relays around, and they did kick on. And when I switched them back, they stayed kicked on. But now clearly they're off again. And then I had that surging issue in the transmission, which didn't feel like a belt slipping or anything. It felt almost just like a, I don't know, like it was like losing a signal or something. And there's something I noticed last night. This might be the most corroded battery terminal I have ever seen in my entire life. What is that? Look at that. Have you ever seen a battery terminal that it's 6 different colors? It's blue, 2 shades of green, it's white, it's brown. It's all in between the connection there. And the negative ain't looking too much better. So I think that's our problem. I think that these cars now, if you don't get the proper signal, you know what, while we're in here, I'll tell everybody to do this. Always put the driver's window down. That way you don't have to worry about locking the keys in the car. Always, 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 always. So yeah, I have never seen a battery terminal that looks like that. Never in my life. Of all the cars I've ever worked on, I've never seen that. So, here's what we're going to start with. We're going to get a new battery, because this battery is, I think she said, about 6 or 7 years old. We're going to clean up these terminals very well. We're going to treat the terminals. We're going to put the little pads on there. We're going to try to keep this from happening again, okay? Step number 1. Step number 2, we're going to put a new radiator cap on here. I don't think we need to, but the fact that popped and it looks a little, I don't know if it looks like rusty in there or what, but for probably 10 or 15 bucks, and maybe not even that, I'm just going to replace it. The other thing I checked yesterday was the oil, and I can tell you that it's about a quart low, and it's not very pretty. It's pretty dirty. So she definitely needs an oil change. It even said on the dash, oil life remaining 0%. So we should definitely address that. So I'm gonna head up to the parts store right now. I'm gonna grab a battery. I'm gonna grab the stuff to clean up the contacts. I'm gonna grab a new radiator cap. I already called them to make sure that they had it. They have it all in stock. And I'm gonna grab oil and a filter to do an oil change on it. We'll be back in a minute. We gotta take this old one out to take to the parts store anyway, so let's see if we can get down to a bolt of some sort. Oh, it's there. Oh my God. Wow. Look at that. It's there. Let's get this battery out. Well, I can say this much. There's not too many times you have to take a hammer to a battery terminal post, but this one I had to. It was stuck on there. It was completely covered in corrosion. So all right, I'm gonna pull this out. We'll go get a new battery, see if that fixes everything. All right, so we got ourselves a fresh battery installed. We even got the fancy red protection spray on there, hopefully to keep it from corroding again. We got ourselves a new radiator cap put on. Let's fire it up and take it for a ride and see if that fixed any of our issues. Well, I guess first let's fire it up and see if the fans kick on. All right, so we're fired back up here, and I do have the fans blowing, which is good. They kicked on right away. So let's take it for a ride and see if the bucking stopped. I'm thinking that was our problem. I'm thinking it just had a bad connection to the battery, and these new cars with all the computers, a bad connection to the battery can cause so many issues. So let's get this cover back on, the cover back on the top, and let's go for a ride. All right, so far so good. Our temp is staying about right in the middle, which is perfect. And I do not feel that bucking right now in the transmission. I'm gonna put it through a little bit more of a run here on the road, but so far so good. It even feels like it's idling a little bit better than it did yesterday. So it's amazing, like I said, what a bad battery can do to these modern cars. I'll see you back at the house. So the bucking in the transmission is definitely still there, and I mean, this has a CVT in it, which I am just not a fan of a CVT at all. I would oppose every purchase of a CVT to anyone that I know. But the number one issue with these CVTs is nobody ever changes the fluid. So I bet if you looked in the owner's manual, they probably recommend this fluid to be changed every 30,000 miles or so. You know, 20,000 miles probably you could even get down to here. Well, we're in Pennsylvania. We got a lot of hills and we have all the different climate conditions. So we're considered a harsh environment for cars. So whenever you look at any of those recommended service intervals, it'll tell you like X amount of miles, but then you minus off so many percent or whatever if it's in a harsh climate, which is what we're considered. So most people with the CVTs just never changed the fluid. This thing's got 100K on it. It probably should have had at least probably 3 coming on 4 changes of the fluid. So, you know, the fluid breaks down and it just doesn't do its job, and the transmission pays the price, and this is what you end up with is a bucket and shitty running transmission. Well, I was gonna say let's check the transmission fluid level, but these new cars, no transmission fluid dipstick anymore. So I'm gonna guess that it's just a worn transmission, a CVT on the car, and just the way they are. Oop, the fan kicked on, good, yep. I turned the AC off, I wanna see if the fan kicked on its own, and it just cycled. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that throughout the night here. I'll keep messing with it, turn it off, turn it back on, just making sure that the fans are cycling so it doesn't overheat again. But that transmission, man, sometimes it amazes me how people that don't know anything about cars will just keep driving cars with issues that, you know, if your car starts bucking real hard when you're giving it gas, you should probably get it checked out. It's probably gonna leave you stranded at some point and you're gonna be upset. So, but that's it for now. Took a new battery, cleaned up some terminals, seems to be back to somewhat normal, except for that transmission. So, but that's not me. I'm not a transmission guy. I don't do trannies. I'll see you next time.